I'm Michael Bungay-Stanier. This is Change Signal, the podcast where we cut through the blather, the BS and the noise to find the good stuff that works in change. If you are a transformational leader seeking modern change mastery, you have just leveled up. Years ago, I read David Allen's book on productivity, which is called Getting Things Done. And the thing from that book that has stuck the longest as a key insight was when he wrote, everything's a project. I mean, anything more than one step should be a project, because that will mean it has a start and a finish, and that changes everything. That insight still has a profound effect on how I manage my life at a personal level today. But if I'm honest, at an organizational level, when I hear the phrase project management, a little part of me curls up and dies. I mean, I have had some shocking project management experiences, and by some, I mean plenty. But I'm lucky enough to be friends with Antonio Nieto-Rodriguez, who is the big deal in the world of project management. He's written the Harvard Business Review's definitive book, The Project Management Handbook. He's recognized by Thinkers 50 as a key person in project management. And he knows better than anyone what it means to run a successful project now in 2025. So here's a truth I've just come to accept. You've got to get good at projects if you're going to get good at doing anything in an organization. So let's find out how. Antonio, welcome.
Thank you, Michael. It's a pleasure to be here on your podcast, Change Signal. I hear it, so it's always nice to be on the side of the speaker talking to you. And
That's
thank
great.
you for the kind introduction.
Well, look, I am really excited to chat to you. Let me start with a provocative question, which is, what do people keep getting wrong about project management? What's the thing that you hear that makes you shake your head and going, I just wish I could kill that untruth off?
One part of my consulting work is giving training of project management in companies. And
right.
The first thing that I have a discussion is say, project management is the worst course we have given in this company. Nobody wants to come. So I said, I'm going to change it. So the professionals in project management, without maybe knowing, we've made it overcomplicated, right? So we love technical things. We love long documents. We love forms and templates and logs. But you, Michael, you probably hate that like 90% of the stakeholders.
Exactly.
So that was kind of my reality. You don't need to remove all that good things, but when you communicate with somebody like you, it just make it simple. And I tell you, Michael, you know, your projects are your future. You have your day-to-day things that's running your business today, but every project that you invest determines how successful you will in the future. So projects are the future. You need to take them carefully. You should not be taking too many. Focus on a few ones. So the best definition I came was when you have a project, is your future in your hands.
And how do you even define a project?
Yeah, the definition is very simple. It has a start and it should end at one point, right? Often it doesn't end, it goes forever. And then you need to have some goals. Why do we do it, right? So often it's amazing. Maybe you've seen this, Michael, but big companies, I ask them, why are you doing this digital transformation? I say, everybody's doing it, right?
Yeah.
Why do you have this ERP system? Everybody has it. So we launch projects without really thinking why we need them. So I think there needs to be a strong purpose to make a project compelling and making sure it gets executed, right? So that's part of the definition.
Part of the PTSD I have around project management and working with the PMO, Project Management Office, in the firms I've worked in, is it felt like their job was to squash creativity.
Absolutely.
Make me follow a plan even when the plan wasn't working. Obsess about numbers and have me review Excel spreadsheets a lot.
Yeah.
None of which I was particularly happy about.
Yeah.
But it feels like that's not the project management you're championing. You're championing something else. What does great project management look like to you?
Michael, what you describe as the PMO has been one of these issues as well, because PMOs have been focusing on back office, process, quality assurance, risk management, which is not bad, but the way when you focus too much, then people start hating, don't see the value. So there's
Right.
a statistic that says 3 out of 4 PMOs are canceled after 2 years because they become so bureaucratic. So for me, my vision, it's trying to focus on the things that matter in a simple way. So that's why I developed the project canvas. I was inspired by our good friend Alex Osterwalder and the business model canvas. And I talked to Alex and say, how can you put like a business model in one page when to define a project we need like 55 pages? And so simplification is something that I've been working a lot so that everybody can connect with a tool, can use the tool to align on ideas, and you don't need to be an expert. Everybody can contribute. The other thing that I've tried to add on the what I call modern project management is focus on benefits. If you deliver a project on time, but it doesn't deliver the benefits, you're not a successful project manager.
Right.
You are a successful project manager if you start delivering benefits and your project is late. So it's about making sure that we focus on the benefits that the project will bring to the stakeholders.
I could bang on about simplification because I'm such a believer in doing the work that allows you to find simplicity on the other side of complexity. You want simplicity in your sense of purpose, in the interventions you create, for the marketing, for the commerce, for everything. I mean, you're really seeking robust elegance. But actually, I just want to highlight this trap that Antonio is pointing to, that project managers and change leaders both fall into when we get entangled in our own timelines and agendas, and we forget the bigger picture of what we're doing. It comes down to the simple and difficult question: how will we know success?
Of course, being on time is very important, and being on budget, but so trying to shift the focus on things that maybe were relevant 40 years ago, but now it's about value generation. And so that's the other last point, Michael, maybe you like this one, but most projects I've seen, and I can easily state that 95% of the projects from the people that are hearing us, it's a group of people.
Right.
And group of people don't deliver projects. Teams deliver projects, but we've not put any attention on. Okay, let's spend the first 2 days creating a team. Forget about the project. We're not going to discuss the new platform. Nobody cares. The first thing that we need to do is, Michael, you're part of the team. Susan, you're part of the team. You all care. You all matter.
Yeah.
And so building teams is one of these kind of forgotten areas in project management, completely neglected. And I bring it to the front and makes everything more fun. Once you work in a project,
Of course,
in a team, regardless whether it goes well or bad, you stick together and you feel proud of it.
So this is already causing me relief, because it feels like you're moving project management away from a tool of tedium, constraint, and punishment, which is my experience. And what I'm hearing is, at its best, a project is a tool for alignment.
Yes.
It's a tool for helping remember what the benefits are, like remembering what the why of the work is in the first place, so that you can adapt and adjust to keep trying to get the benefits you have rather than following a process or a plan.
Absolutely.
And a sense for not just alignment of the team, but it feels like it's like a marketing document as well, to bring in all the other people who need to be committed or be certainly not against the project that you're using.
Absolutely. I can take you with me to my clients now, Michael, because you sell it even better than me.
That's great. I'm going to ask you to explain and teach me the project canvas in just a bit.
Sure.
But before I go there, one of the reasons, often unspoken, why people resist change and resist a project being this is your future that you're building, is an anxiety about failure, a uncertainty and discomfort with risk.
Yeah.
How do you talk to people, teach people about risk to help mitigate people's anxiety?
Yeah, that's one of the great point, Michael, and that's where you built on again another friend Emmy Edmondson work on the psychological safety. So allowing people to take some risks. Of course, you don't want to put the whole project at stake, but letting people that taking risk is normal. We're doing
Yeah.
something new, so if you don't risk, they're not going to do the bigger impact. And in fact, that leads to another thing I'm working on the new book is we need to see projects an opportunity to do exponential change. Most of the projects that company do is incremental change. So that means we're going to do this process 20% faster, but we should use projects to do this project 80% faster. So exponential thinking at the beginning of a project, it's an opportunity to introduce innovation and big impact. And of course, taking risk is part of that exponential thinking and the psychological safety. So when you explain that to people and you show by example that I made a mistake and that's okay, we're going to solve it, then it's part of that mini culture. I always say projects or transformation, regardless of the culture of your company, you can create the own culture of the project that affect your
That's
values.
great.
And so take that and use that and tell the people, this is how I like to work. Risks are perfect. Take them.
I think that's wonderful. I love this idea of, as you said, not just you need to set up a team,
Exactly.
but you also need to build a kind of a culture around this.
Yeah. Most projects, you start in a project and nobody explains you the kind of principles or the ways of working. So imagine you come from different countries, you come from different departments and functions, and then you're expecting that everybody will be on time, that everybody will know how you like to work, and they come with their own habits, and it's chaos. So like you were saying, the team is important, the culture, but also the principles, how I like to work. So I always start, listen, you all come from different locations, you have your own habits. For this transformation, these are the 10 points I'd like you to follow. So we have a weekly meeting on Mondays. If there's an issue, come back to me. I have open hours from 10 to 12 on Tuesday and Thursday. So then people know, okay, this is how Antonio likes to lead his projects. But most projects don't have that. So it's chaos.
So, Antonio, there's something very intriguing about this idea of an exponential project versus an incremental project.
Yeah.
I would love more organizations to have the courage to do exponential projects because it feels to me, just as you said at the start, what you're doing here is you're shaping your future.
Correct.
And, sometimes you need to travel to a destination in small steps, incremental, but sometimes to get to the future, you need to roll a dice, take a big leap. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. So I'm wondering, what wisdom can you share with me around dealing with an exponential project?
Mm-hmm. Well, just to make it very simple, there's 3 dimensions that impact a project. The project itself, so you don't define it very well, you don't plan it, you don't know how to estimate, whatever. That's about 50% of the success of a project, just 50.
Right.
So you can have a perfect project plan done by the best project manager, is going to fail, which is incredible. 25% is senior leadership. So that means in terms of prioritization, having too many projects, and sponsoring a project. Most projects don't have that because sponsors they like to launch projects, but you never see them again, right?
Right.
And 25% is the organization culture, the hierarchy. Hierarchy is one of the worst things for projects.
Okay, jumping in here on that math. I feel like I can control that first 50%, creating the plan, particularly if I'm listening to this podcast. I feel I can influence the next 25%, the senior leadership. And that final 25%, the culture, the hierarchy, I think I probably need to understand it. So I work within what's possible. When in Rome, try and be a Roman, that sort of thing. Okay, back to Antonio.
So these are the 3 areas where we need to work. If we talk about exponential thinking, you need to work on these areas too. So in terms of senior leadership, they need to allow for failure even more, right? In terms of the project, you cannot plan in detail something that you've never done and is exponential. One strategy I'm implementing in companies is say, you can only have two type of projects: 6 months projects or 9 months. Sometimes we have three. So what does it allow you? Instead of committing for 3 years, you don't commit that long. You commit for 6 months. So, okay, it's a small or minor investment. If we see that this is not working, you can pull the plug very quickly.
Yeah.
It's not painful. So that for exponential type of work, you could even do it every 3 months.
Yeah. That's so interesting. I mean, having now done a fair number of interviews as part of the Change Signal project, it's really clear to me that, change is just not linear. It's not
No.
predictable. Emergent is the word that sometimes gets used, which is like it evolves
Exactly.
as you interact with the plan and with reality and with the organization and with all the external factors. These things have their own path.
Exactly. And nowadays, imagine when you're investing in AI or new technologies, you know that whatever tool you choose, it's going to be outdated in 3 months, and you're going to find something cheaper and more performing. So how do you ensure these projects you have an exit strategy, right? Or a pivoting strategy, so that you don't commit for 3 years, for 5 years, for 10. So this is the type of modern concepts that I think we need to put in place to allow what you're saying, to allow change to not be linear, but take the opportunity and don't put barriers within your company to just stick with the old concepts.
You're going to find Antonio at his website, and it's his full name, AntonioNieto-Rodriguez.com. So we'll put that in the show notes for you. He's also on LinkedIn, and he's pretty active and interactive. He'll probably reply to you if you leave a comment on his posts. You're going to find his HBR book, Project Management Handbook, in all the usual places. And so too with his latest book, Powered by Projects, Leading Your Organization in the Transformational Age. That is a great title. Talk to me about the project canvas. Like you and I both know Alex Osterwalder, and he really did shake things up with his business model canvas. And so I love that you've been inspired by that and built a one-page model to understand a project. There's something quite magical about how you've put a project into 9 boxes on a page. So would you be able to take us through all 9 boxes just to give us a sense of how the pieces fit together? I know you've done this 1,000 times.
Of course, this is just for creating alignment to ensure that the project has the fundamentals before you start it. But there's basically 3 big dimensions. The foundation, which is the why of the project, the rational part, but also the emotional part. Then you have the people. One characteristic of projects is that they need people, either in the team or as stakeholders. And then the creation, so what we're going to deliver and the plan and so on. So each of the dimension has 3 areas. And if you want, I can start with the first one.
Yeah, please.
So foundation is divided in 3 areas. The purpose. So this is just basically asking why we do the project. And you would think, well, that's easy. No, that's not easy. I would bet anybody listening to your podcast, if you ask them which project are you working on, they will tell you the what. I'm working on a new system, HR system. I'm working on a new book. I'm working on a new platform or organization, a merger. But why?
Yeah.
Right. So, and this makes a big difference when you can have a compelling purpose. Then leads to another of my thoughts is the most engaged people in any projects are volunteers. 95% of the people in a project are appointed or kindly invited to join, but volunteers are ready to jump and fight with you because they see that the purpose of the project meets their purpose.
Right. So, but without a purpose, you're not going to get a volunteer. And volunteers are a 10x the force of goodness in any project team.
Any project. And I make some golden rules. So if you're going to launch a project and nobody volunteers, don't launch the project, right? It's so simple. You don't need to hire consultants for 3 weeks. I can do that in half an hour, right? So purpose is fundamental. It's not too difficult. Then you have the investment. So this is serious. We're talking about limited resources, limited capital. So we need to look at the finance. Most people don't like the finance piece, but if you want to make your project resonate and get buying from some senior leaders, finance for them is crucial. So I teach everyone that I do these courses is remember one or two financial aspects, right? You don't need to be a guru in finance. You don't need to know how to calculate return on investment or MPV, but always remember how much it's going to cost and what's one financial KPI. So when you cross the CEO or the CFO, my project is about this, 1 million investment, and it's going to turn 200% return. That's it.
Nice.
Then the details can be sent by email. But the investment is the second part. The third one is the benefits. And this is where I spent a lot of time. It's amazing how many projects they have vague benefits. We're going to improve customer satisfaction. We're going to harmonize processes. Where a benefit, if you cannot measure it, is not a benefit. So we need to force people to define measurable benefits.
I'm just thinking of one of the last change projects I worked on when I worked internally in an organization. And I realized as I go through those 3 foundational process, all I was missing was everything. It was a failed project. I was fired eventually from it, but I'm starting to realize why, which is like it was utterly unclear what the purpose was.
Yeah.
There was no budget. I mean, I did get clear that I wasn't given any money to try and do any of this, and it was the benefits were kind of jazz hand, abstract, non-existent ones as well. So yeah, it was a mess. That's a really helpful foundation. Thank you.
Yeah. So that's really and it's not bad to spend like a week or two defining this. So you're building a coalition, you're building engagement that later will take you much more to get. So don't rush this. And one thing is you don't need to rush to launch projects. Sometimes pause them or take a break, and that's okay. That's fine. Nothing will happen.
Yeah, I'm just going to pair that with what you said right at the start, which is it's okay to stop projects as well.
Exactly. So that's about the foundation. 3 very simple areas: purpose, investment, and benefits.
Nice. Yeah.
Third big dimension is people. And here we talk about the sponsor. Like I told you, Michael, 25% of successful transformation is the sponsor.
Yep.
About 95% of the time, they don't know it. They think that they've done their job by launching the project, saying you go ahead and I'll show up in a steering committee on a monthly basis, and that's it. And that's wrong. And most senior leaders have never been trained on their role, of their crucial role. So just a side note, when a company asks me to train their people, I say, I can train them. I'll make really good training, but I will not train unless you give me half a day with the sponsors. Because otherwise I will not have any impact. I will make money, I will have fun, you will have fun, but it's not going to move the needle. So these people have to commit time because they make a big impact.
Antonio, what are the characteristics of a great sponsor?
That's a great question. The biggest one for me, it would be time, dedication, and accessibility. So you see often sponsors that are the CEO, but you never see them. Right? So it might look good on paper that they see sponsor in your project, but nobody sees him. It's useless. And then being ambassadors, that really saying, okay, when Antonio comes to you, help them. Okay, this is crucial. This is strategic for us. So empowering you to speak with the voice of the leadership. And so that's the second. There's a list of about 10, but this one, for me, from my own experience, like yours was very painful several times, is that the sponsor often doesn't know that the role is so important.
Yeah.
And one thing that some companies don't like so much, you have the right to have a sponsor. If your project has no sponsor, you have the responsibility to stop it immediately. Right? And ask your leaders, because one thing that I always say is in projects, there's no hierarchy. In operations, you have hierarchy, and that's fine. But in projects, if you need to talk to the CEO and say, I'm stopping the project unless I get a sponsor, you have the right. You don't need to ask permission to no one.
I mean, it's compelling when you say, look, you got 25% of the success of a project is on the sponsor. So if you don't have a sponsor, success is almost impossible.
Absolutely. It's almost impossible.
So we've got the 3 boxes on the foundation. The people level, are there 3 boxes or 2 boxes here?
Yeah, there's the sponsorship. So that's the first one. Then you have the resources. So it's about the project manager, the team. So that's where we're covering what we already cover around the creating the team before moving forward.
Yeah.
And the stakeholders. So these are people either contributing with their resources or sponsoring in part of the steering committee, or just people who will be impacted by your project. So stakeholders is something that we need to engage and to manage. Sponsorship, resources, and stakeholders.
So foundations, people, what's the third layer?
The last one is the creation. So here you see more traditional concepts like deliverables. So what will the project do, the features, and then from there we'll need to make a plan. You can use more agile concepts like Scrum or sprints, or make something a bit more structured like a traditional project plan. So deliverables, plan, and change. So this is where you have because every project has change linked to that. I don't know who decided to split projects and change, but this is how people see it. It's all integrated. So we need to think about how we're going to make sure that what we build is being used, right? And people embrace it and see it as something exciting to work. So the change piece is the third part, the deliverables, plan, and change under creation.
Got it. And what I love about this is when I thought about project management, it was a lot about the plan and deliverables and the kind of the mechanicalness of that.
Yeah.
And you've expanded that a great deal through this whole canvas.
Mm-hmm.
Well, what are the insights within the change bucket? Obviously, this is a podcast about change.
Yeah.
I mean, what do you know about change now that you may not have known 5 years ago?
I think one point that you mentioned, Michael, resonated a lot, and I have the proof. Change is not linear. Another thing that it's become very clear is that people hardly change first if they don't see personal benefits.
Right.
So investing and talking to you as a contributor or a sponsor, but other people as well. Third, there is a sense of urgency needed. So if you want to mobilize big groups, you need to think about why is it urgent so that people can prioritize on your initiative. So it doesn't mean that there's fire or there's pandemic, or it can be just that I have seen that, and this is something that you saw sometimes, is that when the senior leadership teams discusses your project more frequent. So imagine I saw that in GSK when we launched the sustainability transformation. The steering committee was composed by the CEOs of the company. They were meeting once per week, 90 minutes. So after 3 weeks, everybody in the company knew that sustainability was a top priority. They had to develop plans. They had to create teams. So the urgency can be also from behavior from the top. Some of things are so simple, Michael. If you want to accelerate any projects that people are hearing, get your CEO to spend more time on it, right? If your CEO, instead of spending 1 hour per month, spends 1 hour per week or 3 hours per week, that's going to make 12 months in 2 months, right? So it's sometimes as simple as this that can create that sense of urgency.
That's a provocatively useful note to finish on. I mean, if your project needs C-suite support, how much time exactly are you getting with them? And if it would make a difference, what needs to be true for that to be doubled? Now, to support the podcast, you don't need to spend an hour every week or even an hour every month. Just every now and then, recommend a favorite episode to someone who's a transformational leader like you. And if you post on LinkedIn, do tag me so I can say thank you. Thanks for doing the work. I'm glad you're here.